Electricity Minister Dr. Kgosientsho Ramokgopa says government and Eskom will soon let the country know the issues that have resulted in the country's crippling power cuts. Ramokgopa has also assured the nation that the answers to reducing and eventually ending the blackouts are known. The minister is today visiting Tutuka and Camden power plants as part of his fact-finding mission.
So the message I want to convey to the South African public, we now know the scale of the problem. As we move from one station to the other, we are beginning to, if you like, unpack the magnitude of the problem, its manifestations, but most importantly the solutions to ensure that we get out of load shedding, address the intensity and regularity of load shedding as mandated by the President, and will come out with the deadlines, hard deadlines, to communicate to the general public. We are number 5 of 14, still going strong, and we are confident that we are going to get the information that is going to help us to resolve this load shedding.
The minister has also assured the power station management that government will give them all the support they need to deliver their mandate.
And the message we are giving to management is that we are with them. We will take every measure necessary to ensure, first, their protection, their safety, their health, so that we allow them the opportunity to bring to bear and exert their expertise and skills to ensure that they are at the forefront, coalface of resolving this problem. So these problems are known, they've been communicated further with the greater levels of granularity, and we'll take it up with the relevant authorities.
Okay, let's speak to Roger Lilley, an energy expert, in terms of some of the utterances of the electricity minister. Roger, thank you very much for availing yourself this afternoon. So he's hit the ground running, finding out what is wrong. He revealed in the past 2 days that it's not necessarily corruption. He wouldn't characterize what's happening at Eskom as corruption, just technical issues.
Yes, that's correct. I think what he has perhaps not been shown is some of the corruption that exists in terms of deliberate sabotage, where things have been damaged in order to get repeat business for certain of the contractors. I'm not sure if he's been shown some of the evidence of that.
In fact, let's take a look, listen at what he said about the corruption element.
The energy action plan, all I know is that the problems with regards to the challenges that we have had here, these are technical problems. They have nothing to do with the so-called corruption. I'm going to meet Labour. I'm sure they'll raise other issues. But from the issues that have been raised with me with regards to the units that have gone out as a result of the structural integrity of the chimney and the issues around the design component of FGDs have nothing to do with corruption. Everything to do with technical designs, the significant modifications that they are making, and I'm very happy with the modifications that they are proposing. So no, here, at least on the version of management and the conversations we have had of the 5 units that are out of operations, have nothing to do with the corruption, but everything to do with the technical designs. And we are correcting those designs so that they don't get to recur going into the future. The energy action plan has been there. All that we are doing, we are accelerating, and of course we can see that 6 power stations are beginning to pick up. The energy availability factor is going up. So it's a function of the efforts that we have been making. We have come into the space, of course, bolstering those efforts, and hopefully after we have left here, we'll also start to see meaningful and real changes at this station, the next one, and after on all these power stations. I'm confident about our ability to address the crisis.
Roger, energy availability is on an upward trajectory. Does this come as a surprise?
It doesn't come as a surprise. It comes as a worry, because the only way you can increase the energy availability factor is to keep the equipment running for longer periods. Now, we had this applied once before when Machela Koko was the interim CEO, and before him, of course, was Brian Molefe, both of whom improved the EAF by reducing the amount of maintenance time that these units were applied to these units. And the result of that, of course, is that we landed up in stage 6 load shedding when everything started collapsing. Now, there are a number of issues when we talk about corruption. The Minister is correct in his assessment of being a technical problem. Of course, it's a technical problem. It can't generate electricity. The real question is, why can't it generate electricity? And there we will start to see that money that should have been spent on maintenance was spent on other things. We will see that items purchased for maintenance were far more expensive than they should have been. We will see that coal that was delivered was either the wrong grade of coal completely or was mixed with stones, which caused technical problems in the mills. And so it goes on. So it's rather naive of the man and rather misleading, bordering on dishonest, to say that there's no corruption behind the problems at Eskom.
I mean, he promised over the past 2 days that this will be a consultative process, if you like, where they will be honest and open with the public and take us through the journey. Today he mentioned, because he's at Tutuka and Camden, the electricity minister, Dr. Ramokgopa, that there's no investment in cooling towers, for instance. You speak of the mix of quality of coal. He says that needs to be looked at to lift the energy availability factor at Tutuka and Camden.
Yeah. Well, he's right. These things do need to be done and looked into. The question is whether this is money well spent or not. We are on the cusp of a energy transition, and spending more money on 50-year-old power stations might not be such a wise decision. And I think one has to look at the bigger picture and decide whether we do this or whether we start to do some repurposing, as has been proposed with Komati, for instance.
This is what he said, because we've heard also quite a lot about a low staff morale at Eskom. This is what the electricity minister had to say about that yesterday.
The scale, nature, and, if you like, gravity of the electricity situation is something that is well documented. So we're already, if you like, close to 2 weeks into the office, and now we're going to the workers. My view has always been that the biggest asset to any organization is its workers. And the reason why we're starting bottom up first is to appreciate and understand the efforts that are being made at the station level.
The understanding, or at least, Roger, the allegation is that this is a self-created problem on the part of government. How far do you perceive these words will go in fueling workers at Eskom to actually doing what they need to do, when we are also made to understand, or there are allegations that have surfaced of political interference?
Yes, well, I think when we look at the history of Eskom over the last 10 to 12 years, and we see that 11 CEOs have been in the chair over that short period, 11 CEOs in 12 years in any organization is absolutely crazy. We know that these appointments were made by government, because the way Eskom is structured, the Minister of Public Enterprises appoints the chair, the CEO. So, of course, that's political interference. And we know from other things that we've read and other things that we've heard on the ground that these appointments have often been made in order to find someone or to place someone in a position where they will do the master's bidding. Unfortunately, the master's bidding is more about self-aggrandizement and improving their own wealth, and it has to do with generating electricity for the country.
A number of people questioning the availability of electricity over the weekend and yesterday and Monday as well. Did you find this peculiar, or did you enjoy the comforts that come with having electricity?
Well, obviously, we're always happy to have electricity from Eskom. It's the cheapest electricity we can get in the country. And if I don't have to listen to my neighbor's generator running, that's even better. But, at the end of the day, as I say, improving the energy availability factor is not difficult to do. The problem is, or the concern is, that the manner in which it's being done. If you are driving the equipment hard enough so that the lights all remain on and there's no load shedding, that means that because we know very well that we've got about 20,000 megawatts out of service. 16,500 is out of service because of breakdowns, and the balance is out of service deliberately because of maintenance. Now, where did the EAF come from? Those machines that broken down are still broken down. So that means that other equipment has been pushed hard to provide us with electricity at this time. Together with the fact that the demand is probably a bit lower because more and more people have started becoming more self-sufficient in terms of their own requirements. And efficiency is also improved. So, it's easy to paint these pictures. And I'm sorry to say this, but frankly, one wonders if there's a political motive behind it in order to make the present government appear to be doing something, when in fact the situation is really no better than it was a few months ago.
Because the direct consequence of that, with pressure being added to what is available, is a complete breakdown, but the electricity minister giving an assurance and very confident that we will not go to higher stages than what we already have. So beyond 6, there's no 7, there's no 8, even though there are papers that are being looked at or drafted to take a look, or possible scenario planning where that is concerned. Is that a concern for you?
Look, I think in any electricity network that has to cut more than a quarter of its output in order to keep some semblance of stability in the network shows me that there's a serious problem in the network. We have, if you include all the private generation and Eskom generation, something in the vicinity of 50,000 megawatts overall capacity. Yet we are unable to keep about 28,000 megawatts of demand met. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the equipment that we have is unreliable and is breaking down more and more frequently. We've heard from the previous CEO that some of these breakdowns were deliberate, that people removed plugs to drain oil from equipment so that it would seize up and fail. We've heard of all sorts of things being done of that sort of nature. And the motive behind it is not a political one. It's simply an economic one. The contractor responsible for that particular equipment wants to be able to maintain the standard of living that he's enjoying by getting repeat business from Eskom, and so he's making sure that equipment doesn't remain reliable. Now, let's just bring that home. Imagine if you took your car in for service and the mechanic who worked on your car deliberately did something to your car so that within a week or two you'd have to bring it back to have more work done. Surely you'd be very unhappy about that, particularly if you found out about it. I imagine you'd go to the police and lay a charge. It's so serious. Now, we're not talking about someone's private motor car here. We're talking about equipment that supplies the country with electricity to run its economy, to create jobs, to reduce the inequality that exists, to start addressing the homelessness and the poverty that we are facing. Surely this kind of behavior borders on treason, and even sabotage should be seen as an act of not just criminality but terrorism. It is that serious. And yet when it was raised, it was poo-pooed and disbelieved, and now we've got a man being put in there to come and disprove everything the previous CEO says. And unfortunately, everything he says seems to cut diametrically across everything the previous CEO said. And it looks almost like his job is simply to discredit the previous CEO rather than to actually come with some real answers.
Because, Roger, I'm going to get into trouble for this, but there's also allegations that this is deliberate in an attempt to privatize Eskom. You mentioned a little bit earlier on that we'd rather have electricity from Eskom because it is cheaper. And so this allegation of privatization via the back door through IPPs, etc., I do wonder what you make of that.
Yes, look, many years ago there was talk about Eskom being privatized. And the government was adamant that privatization was not on the cards. What I think is really happening is not a privatization campaign, but is something to address the problem that we have with air pollution in South Africa. Air pollution, in a very large degree, comes from Eskom's coal-fired power stations. The Minister of Environment will be able to give you specific numbers because studies have been done. The CSIR have done studies, other universities have done studies, and so on. And they show that the coal particles that are emitted into the atmosphere from coal-fired power stations, which then come down in the rain and land up in animals, land up in our lungs, together with the actual poisons, the gases which come off the burning of coal are deadly.
Roger,
all of this is now...
I'm so sorry about that. Unfortunately, we have to leave it there as we have to take our viewers to the city of Tshwane for the developments there. But thank you very much. I appreciate your time and your indulgence this afternoon.